following program is paid for and presented by John DeMasi. The opinions expressed are not those of Town Square Media or station advertisers.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
You won't believe what I'm about to say. We salute all of the global warming enthusiasts. I mean, 80 degrees today, and it's a couple days from Halloween? Maybe there's something to this. Just kidding. I mean, I've had a lot to say about the global warming people, so just wanted to tease a little bit. But good morning and welcome to another edition of Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi, and we are also heard on 1450 AM and online, WPGTalkRadio.com. And I always give out my emails. I'll give it out first today. I'm giving out my phone number. JDADV1 at Comcast.net. JDADV1 at Comcast.net. So that's the email, and we got all that business out of the way. And a lot to talk about today. And, of course, Joe Yakovich coming in at 11 o'clock, and he'll be talking to us about finances and getting out of debt and all that good stuff. But in between, we've got a lot to talk about here. We'll talk about Trump and what's going on there and Giuliani and, you know, the usual cast of characters here on Talk with a Purpose. But before we get into the topics today, I'm sure that somebody's going to call about the stolen election of 2020. And once again, I will reiterate my position. There was no stolen election in 2020. Now, there's a lot of circumstances that lead us to believe maybe there was, but there wasn't. So once and for all, there was no stolen election. What I want to focus on is looking ahead. We have another important election coming up in a year, and we have to focus on winning that. Because by winning, I mean Trump or whoever the Republican nominee is, we want to get them elected. No more Biden. That should be the slogan, don't you think? No more Biden. He's done enough, hasn't he? Enough said. Okay? No more Biden. Let's move on. Let's not talk about 2020. Let's move on to 2024. But what I really want to talk about today, and I want to go back a little bit. I said move forward. In order to bring out the point, I want to go back. The pandemic, 2020. How could you forget Governor Phil Murphy, in response to a Tucker Carlson interview, said that the Bill of Rights was above his pay grade. Remember that? Oh, and do you remember just a short year ago, Republicans pretty much didn't have the red wave they were supposed to? Now, bear with me. I'm going to tie these two together. The red wave didn't happen because the Democrats said first, it's abortion. Then it's other constitutional rights. That's what they're going to take away from us. That was the message. Pretty much the Democrats, in most cases, avoided the red wave because they created fear in the public concerning Republicans. So now I'm going to start to create fear in the Democrats. They want to take away our freedoms more so than the Republicans. And I'm referring to a headline in the press editorial the other day, and it said, you ready for this? Murphy and Biden to force drivers to buy electric vehicles. That's what the headline said. And the editorial went on to describe what they want to do. That's what it said. Governor Murphy and President Biden, they have ordered a ban on the sale of gasoline-powered cars as of 2035, if not sooner. Do you believe that? This is part of their effort to force, and again, key word here, force, a quick switch to electric cars. Imagine, to electric cars on the auto industry and American drivers, all in the name of clean energy. Yes, the environment. It must be clean. And my question is, where did our freedoms go? I thought, this is me thinking, I thought we had freedom of choice in this country. Apparently we don't. Remember when, some of you may not remember, but I remember my mother used to smoke, and I was allowed, back then a kid could buy cigarettes. I'd go down to the store and buy me cigarettes. And then they put that warning on the label, oh, it's going to cut down it didn't do anything. But they never banned smoking. And we know, we have evidence, a lot of evidence, that in some cases it kills you. But we never banned it. So now here comes the auto industry and Murphy and Biden, they want to ban, stop gas-powered cars. By 2035? Do you believe that? 2035. That means in 11 years, 12 years from now, we won't see gas-powered cars? Do you want that? Do you believe in that? Do you think that's right? And then, of course, to help get there, New Jersey and the U.S. are taking money from utility bills and taxes paid by everyone to give mostly affluent buyers $12,000 off the price of electric cars. They've needed a lot of incentive so far to convince the public about electric vehicles. And I have to tell you, my godson has now driven electric cars for a couple of years. And he just went to the big version of the famous electric car. It's really, he says it's fantastic. I love it. Okay. To each his own. But he had a choice. He chose electric cars. Okay. But in this case, what Murphy and Biden are talking about is not being able to buy a gas-powered cars, eliminating them altogether. Did they eliminate cigarettes? No. You can still buy them. Anybody over 21 can buy them. So, getting back to my point, it's just another Democratic trick, and it's appropriate because we're talking Halloween and trick-or-treating. Yes, there's no treats with the Democrats. It's a trick from those great tricksters known as the Democratic Party, led by Murphy and Biden. And if we let them go and do this, who knows what else? And that's why I say originally I started the show. That's why we have got to focus on what's ahead, the 2024 election. We cannot let the Democrats in there for another 4 years. It's just that simple. Here's an example. This is just one. Who knows what else? And do we have to go through the list of things that Biden has done wrong? And yet he just moves on. Oh, he's a great president. Oh, he's done this, he's done that. Yeah, what's he done? Created inflation that we haven't had in 30 years. It's just too much. It's too much. So, and I know this audience, we're pretty much Republican. If you want to stay the course, then you vote for Biden. But if you want change, you vote Republican, whether it's Trump or whoever else. And with that, we bring in Seth Grossman, Liberty and Prosperity. He always has something very interesting and informative to say, and I'm sure today is no exception. Seth, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. And again, I invite everybody to visit libertyandprosperity.com. We have a new post on the anti-Israel protest yesterday in Atlantic City with about 400 or 500 Muslims parading, not just for justice in Palestine, but the sign said, destroy Israel. And you really can't appreciate the impact of that power unless you look at the photos. And the photos were posted by the Press of Atlantic City in their online edition. They didn't do an article telling you what the speaker said, so all you could see are the photos of what the sign said. And we have a whole lot of details on that. But before I talk about that, the point is, with electric cars, the energy has to come from somewhere. So isn't it ironic that when Governor Murphy and Biden are saying we need to all have electric cars, so when you come back from the day of commuting, you plug your car in and expect power to be there, and at the same time they blew up the power plant at Beasley's Point, the last of it, the smokestack. So where's the power supposed to come from? Supposed to come from the wind? Well, what if the wind's not blowing? What from the sun? Well, we have this thing called night. So where's the power going to come from? There's no talk of building any new nuclear power. So it's all about making us poor and dependent and to have control over us. So it is a concern. And what's an interesting concern is notice how they always say, well, we're going to get rid of the electric of gasoline cars in 2035. So nobody thinks it's going to happen or it's not going to happen to them or they'll figure out some way around it. They always do this little by little, and it reminds me a little bit of what they did, the environmentalists in the government did with beach houses. I don't know about you, but I was shocked as a lawyer when I had a client they wanted to buy their mom's house in Margate, small, modest house in Margate. And, of course, the mom lived there for years. The kitchen was old, the bathroom was old, the windows were old. So what they wanted to do is fix up the house so they could end up retiring and living there. First thing they find out, you can't fix up your house unless you raise it, spend $75,000 to raise the house off the ground. Well, who says you have to do that? Well, that's the building codes we have now. And when did all that start? Well, nobody voted for it. You had no choice. The federal government said, well, we're not going to give flood insurance to anyone in the community unless you adopt these rules that say you have to do that. And why would you want to raise a house to have a second floor? When you're older, you don't want to walk up a set of steps. You don't want the cost of the maintenance of an elevator up and down. But this is how they force you to do stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. They say, how's it going to save on flood insurance? Because back in the old days, you had a small, modest house. If, God forbid, there was a storm every 20 or 30 years, you'd put another one up. Now you have to invest all this money for elevators and second stories, and you don't have the same quality of life you had before. And that's exactly what they're doing with the cars. I had a friend who wanted to install a natural gas grill in her backyard. Found out that would cost like $3,000-$4,000. Why? Because the government puts all these new restrictions on expanding natural gas pipes. And it's like nobody wants it. It's we're being forced to do stuff that makes no sense to pursuing this agenda, that is being put out there by these woke people just to increase their own power and control over us.
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to say, but you said it a little better than I did.
So anyway, let's talk about that rally in Atlantic City, because it was absolutely frightening. Most of the people, I'd say 95% of the people at that rally were they were Muslims, but they were mostly immigrants from Pakistan and Bangladesh. And anyone who has lived here during the past 30 or 40 years has noticed this huge change between that community and what it was 30 or 40 years ago. Because we all know that many of our friends who are taxi drivers, who owned stores on the boardwalk, very congenial people, loved America. And now suddenly, 30, 40 years later, these demonstrations against Israel, you see what they're preaching in the mosque, against Christians, against America. What happened? And what happened is, many of these people were not very religious when they came here, but they were Muslim and they wanted to set up a mosque, and they would do the best they could. They'd get a local person who was familiar with the Quran. They'd have a storefront. They'd pray, every day or once a week, and they'd be just fitting into the American way of life. What happened about 30 or 40 years ago is that suddenly you had these, I guess, I don't know what you call them, from Saudi Arabia and from India, from Pakistan, people with all this money saying it's a shame you have a mosque in a storefront. We'll give you money to build a brand new mosque. And they're going to say, well, we don't have $200,000-$300,000 to build a mosque. Don't worry. We'll pay for your beautiful new mosque. And then they'll say, and you can't just have a part-time preacher running your services. You need a full-time imam. And they would say, well, we can't afford an imam. Don't worry. Saudi Arabia is going to pay for your imam. So suddenly you're getting these lavish new mosques all over New Jersey. You're getting these preachers who are trained by the Wahhabi school of Saudi Arabia and what's called the Deoband school in India, who trained the Taliban, the most radical, extreme form of Islam. And that's what's being taught on a regular basis to their children. And if you look at the photos, you could see the change in the power that they have, and it's scary.
I just can't see how people are in favor of Hamas. They are terrorists. That's all they are, plain and simple.
Well, from their point of view, in fact, the speaker is an interesting guy. His name is Jawad Rasul. He was the main speaker at the rally yesterday. And he used to be the imam that was sent to preach there several years ago, but now he's at a really big mosque in Islamic Center in Austin, Texas. So it's interesting how, and by the way, his biography says he's from Augusta, Georgia, but he's head of the mosque in Austin, Texas, and now he's speaking at this rally in Atlantic City. So, interesting guy, and obviously you need a little bit of money to be able to do that. But what's interesting about him, he's going to give a talk this morning on the Islamic conquest of Jerusalem. He did a speech last night talking about how the Arabs conquered Jerusalem in the year 633, and this morning's lecture is going to be the great victory when the Muslims reconquered Jerusalem from the Crusaders under Saladin. So this is what they're teaching. So once they teach that we Muslims conquered Israel, 1,000 years ago, and under our doctrine, once a land is Muslim, it can never again be occupied by anybody else. In other words, they're actually preaching that Spain has to become Muslim again, that Greece has to be Muslim again because they used to be under Muslim control. So this is how radical they are. So, what they preach is if somebody else is in your land, well, you have the right to get rid of them by any means necessary. And that's part of the doctrine. Now, this is something else that's interesting. I have no idea what Jawad Rasul said to the crowd out in the park. You had the Atlantic City Police were closely watching it. Of course, we have no idea what he said inside the mosque. But by coincidence, this same Jawad Rasul was a nationally known figure in 2012. And if you Google him, you'll see right away what happened. Because at that time, the New York Police Department was doing surveillance on various mosques and Islamic groups in New York. And they did it after the World Trade Center attack because they found out that the people who did the World Trade Center attack were followers of this guy called the Blind Sheikh, who had a mosque in Brooklyn. And it was his followers who murdered Rabbi Kahani in Manhattan in 1990. And it was the followers of this guy who tried to blow up the World Trade Center in 1993 with a truck. They put a bomb in a truck they rented from Ryder. I don't know if you remember that. But after that happened, the New York Police Department would send undercover guys to see what was being taught in these mosques. And by the way, that is standard procedure in every single Islamic country, because even in Islamic countries, they want to know to make sure that some of these radical preachers are not using the mosque as a excuse to recruit terrorists. So what happened was when news of that surveillance came out, it was this Jawad Rasul who was interviewed all over the country saying how horrible it was. He was a student at the City College in New York, and how could you possibly do this to me? And by the way, at that same time when the news came out, Governor Chris Christie said he was shocked by that surveillance. He completely attacked the police chief of New York, and he said that this surveillance would not be tolerated in New Jersey. So now we have no idea what is being taught or preached in these mosques, which might be of some concern. So that's all posted on our Liberty and Prosperity site.
It's really something. I just can't get over how the support for these terrorists. I'm baffled by this, but that's
you're right. But if you look at the signs, they say Israel's a terrorist. You're living on stolen land. So what do you do if someone's stealing your land? You have the right to kill them to get them off your land, and that's how they justify it.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt that if some imam would tell these people, well, you go after somebody here in America for something, or go after Christians, they do it in a heartbeat because that's the doctrine that they're embracing. And this has been going on for 20 or 30 years. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, our clueless Jewish community leadership is saying, we got to watch out for those white supremacists. We got to watch out for the extreme right. And they don't say a single word about this, and that's why they got so strong. Just time for one more point that I didn't have a chance to post yet. I was about to talk about that incident in New York last week where you had some homeless guy, obviously mentally ill, being treated for all sorts of violent behavior, but he's wandering the streets of New York, and he finally, just for no reason, grabs a 26-year-old guy, punches him, breaks his jaw, and then he takes a 30-year-old woman, shoves her head into the side of a departing subway train. She tumbles into the tracks, and she has critical brain damage. So I was about to post something about what are we doing wrong here? How can we have people who are obviously mentally ill, who, back until the 1960s, before we had that change in culture with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, we had Ancora, we had Bayberry in Philadelphia. We had these institutions where dangerous people could be kept away from society to protect us. And suddenly when we changed the culture in the 1970s and 1980s, these people are out in the street. They're just as dangerous as they were as when they were confined. But the psychiatrists are telling them, oh, no, we're giving them mood-altering medication that calms them down. And if you look at, I'd say, 80 to 90% of the mass shootings and mass violence you'll see it's almost all of them are tied to this mood-altering drugs where people have no idea of the consequences of what they're doing because they're not thinking clearly. But why do we think it's safer to put these people out in the street giving them these drugs? And then, of course, the second thing tied to this, you couple that with the confidentiality laws where the psychiatrists and the social workers and the supervisors know how dangerous these people are, but they're not allowed to tell the police, or they're not allowed to tell the schools, or they're not allowed to tell the neighbors about how dangerous these people are because they could lose their careers for violating the confidentiality. So we're examining that. And, of course, the third factor is this culture of envy and revenge. And we talk about this a lot at libertyandprosperity.com. Benjamin Franklin said that the whole idea of America and American opportunity is if something is wrong in your life, you get an education, you get training, you discipline yourself, you work, you practice, you achieve, you succeed. That was always the American ideal. But when you get the socialist ideal, whatever breed of socialism it is, it's always your life is miserable, you don't have a chance, it's somebody else's fault, you get even and take what's yours. You couple those three things, we're not confining dangerous people, we're giving them medication that makes them crazier, and we have this culture that if there's unhappiness in their life, they should get even with somebody else. And that's what we have to do. And you could talk about guns all you want, but if you don't deal with these underlying causes, you're going to have people getting stabbed, getting shoved into subway tracks. We've got to deal with the underlying causes. So that's our message of libertyandprosperity.com for this week's breakfast. And, of course, we meet 9:30 to 10:30 at the at Sal's Cafe in Summers Point, and I'm on my way.
Okay, Seth. He actually ended on time. Amazing. Seth Grossman, Liberty and Prosperity. Website, libertyandprosperity.com is the website. It's Talk with a Purpose, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. We'll get started with Craig, John, Bob, and maybe you. It's 609-407-1450, 609-407-1450. We'll get started with the calls after these words.
Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Palestina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Palestina. This ad was paid for by Palestina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
And we are back here. Let's get started with the calls. 609-407-1450. Craig in Northfield. Craig, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Well, good morning, John. How are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Man, 6-1. How could I be?
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah. Anyway, Bob, you'll let us know about the Redskins. And anyway, you noticed I did say that. Proud to be Indians, because guess what? The Redskins, with that if you look at the logo, they were very strong and proud of their heritage.
Right.
Hey, Seth, I just want to say I don't hear you saying anything about my boy Donnie over there. Maybe we wouldn't be having our bases, like 20, I think, what was that, 31 soldiers we lost?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a shame.
Do you think would you think Iran would have backed up and done something like that through Syria like that?
No.
And what did Biden say? Don't. And what did Iran say? We do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what they basically gave them the index finger for those people that haven't been watching.
Yeah. They did, yeah.
Real quick, because I got a lot to cover, and we got a short period of time with Seth with the stuff there. I just want to point out that every single one of these mass shooters, if you look, including the one that did that Jared Longer who shot Gabby Guilford and then killed 6 people.
Yes.
What's all in common? They had ringing in their ears.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Noah Green, who shot his girlfriend. Santiago Ruiz, remember him?
Yes.
And then Connor Betts, who shot 9 people.
Yes.
All ringing in the ears. Okay? And if you look at the last one from Maine, he got these new headpieces, earphones in his ears, that the seniors get. High technology, high-pitched. He was complaining about that. And so what they're saying is these people get voices in their ears that tell them to do these bad things. Now, I don't know who could do something like that, but isn't that amazing that we get that all the time when something that we shouldn't be looking at?
Yeah.
So, and also, John, I'm going to call you on the carpet because, you were busting my chomps over there about the doom and gloom call that I made over 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How you feeling? You feeling warm and fuzzy? I just want to ask you there, buddy.
I don't know about that, but,
You feeling cozy over there in your blanket? Because, China, for those people that don't know, China's bringing 3 ships right over, to that area where the Bush ship is. All right? Now, thank God that Bush ship has that laser beam in there because that laser is amazing. We don't need missiles with that. But I think reality has set in. And, part of the thing that I've been seeing, there was a little young girl that was talking, and she was complaining about her job and how she has to work 9 to 5, and then she's got to commute. She goes, I don't have any time for myself. Parents, train your kids. Give them a little job so they're prepared for the real world. Yeah. And I heard you about the election. So I'm going to bring up Mark Meadows. Did you hear about that today?
No, I didn't. No.
You didn't hear that? Smith, the prosecutor there in this big case. The one that had that Anderson accounting firm down there that the Supreme Court turned over. That's how bad he is. But they said that Mark Meadows was turning on Trump, and then it came out that it was just a leak and a bad leak, and then that was disputed. And like Trump said, well, that's not what you wrote in your book, right? Yeah. Mark Meadows does have a book. Yeah. For those that don't know. So Gavin Newsom in China. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it.
You didn't see? Gary is sitting nice and cozy with what's his name? Jinping, something like that. That's,
yes.
He's sitting right next to him. They're talking about all the electric cars and all the land that China's buying over there in California. They're going to call it China. They're not going to call it California. They're going to call it China too. Pretty soon, the way Gavin Newsom's going. But why he's sitting there with him, John? You know what's going on?
What?
They're flying their planes within 75 feet of our fleets out there in the ocean. You know how close 75 feet is?
Very close.
I mean, 75 feet. For those that don't know, just think about how big that plane is and how big that ship is, but you're talking it's only less than 3/4 of a football field.
Yes.
Now you got how close that is.
Yeah, that is. That's very close.
All right. So, anyway, last thing, again, you talked about the election. Did you know that Trump is he just filed a case that he's going to submit classified testimony over there in that Georgia case?
No. Boy, I tell
you
you.
Didn't hear that?
No.
That's why I had to say that, because I heard you running over there about the election. Well, let's just wait.
Just all I said was, let's move forward. Let's concentrate.
We can't move forward. Here, let me just tell you something. When
Why?
you got dog poop in the let me say this to you. If you see a skunk in the road,
yes,
you don't run over it. You don't keep moving. You get it out of the road, because everybody's going to hit it, and you're going to have all over yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Am I wrong?
No,
all right.
but some may choose to.
I'm just going to say this to you. We got Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. Thank you, Matt Gaetz, because if it wasn't for Matt Gaetz, we wouldn't have this conservative. Did you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, I know who Johnson is, and we'll talk about it later on. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on.
All right. Thanks for the call. 609-407-1450. We have John and we have Bob and maybe you at 609-407-1450. It's Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. And I'm John DeMasi. We'll come back with more show in just a moment. But first, we want to tell you about BF Mazzeo. There's no controversy here. Everybody agrees it is the finest fresh fruit and produce you will find anywhere. And coming up, we'll find out in a couple of weeks whether they got best of the press again. And it would be like 9 years in a row. We'll see. We think they're going to get it, but we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, if you know what I mean. We'll let you know, but it looks good. BF Mazzeo, 601 New Road in Northfield. And, of course, if you want to be a part of the text messaging club, you text your number to 855-910-1246, and you will be a part of the text messaging club. And, a couple times a week, maybe, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, you will get specials and you'll get money-saving coupons on your text message. And you just go in and you cash them in. It's that simple. BF Mazzeo, online at bfmazzeo.com. The finest fresh fruit and produce you'll find anywhere. And I hope they have watermelon this week. They didn't have it last week because they said it wasn't any good, so they don't carry it. And that goes to show you they just carry quality. That's it. And if you look, and if you've done the test like I have of tomatoes and cucumbers and other things that you would buy in the supermarket, I don't buy them anymore in the supermarket. I buy them at BF Mazzeo. Why? Because they're better. Simple. Okay? BF Mazzeo, 601 New Road, Northfield, online at bfmazzeo.com. Getting close to Thanksgiving, believe it or not. We'll be talking about holiday sides and all kinds of stuff at BF Mazzeo. We're coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
If you're interested in driving one of the finest automobiles on the market today, then you'll want to check out all of the fabulous new and pre-owned Lexus at Lexus of Atlantic City. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Driving a Lexus is like no other vehicle on the market. Test drive one for yourself at Lexus of Atlantic City. Whether it's new or pre-owned, you'll be more than satisfied. In fact, Lexus is consistently #1 when it comes to customer satisfaction. Visit Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Or you can check out their outstanding selection of new, pre-owned, and L-certified pre-owned vehicles on their website, LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. That's LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. Or, if you want more information, call 609-641-0008. Lexus of Atlantic City, now celebrating their 26th year in the area. A dealership that you'll enjoy. No pressure, no gimmicks, no hassle, no hype. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. And remember, always online at LexusOfAtlanticCity.com.
Your WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey. Today it's a great day to be outside. Lots of sunshine, very warm, high 85. Mostly cloudy and mild tonight with a low of 57. We'll end the weekend tomorrow with cloudy skies, high 66. Grab your umbrella to kick off the week on Monday. Mostly cloudy and warm. Spotty shower in the afternoon with a high of 74. For AccuWeather, I'm Cheryl Golden on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Back here on Talk with a Purpose. If you want to email me during the week, feel free. jdadv1 at Comcast.net. That's jdadv1 at Comcast.net. Email me anything you like, pro, con, program suggestions, whatever. jdadv1 at Comcast.net. It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Let's say hello to John. John, you're on Talk with a Purpose.
Yes, good morning. So the Democrats use terror tactics in a midterm election. I'm very shocked. I'm very, very shocked. Not really. And yes, Craig's not off the mark. There is voice-to-skull technology. It's the 21st century. It's an uber technological ability. They have that technical ability to do that, you know. But anyway, on January 10th, 2023, the Declaration of North America was signed. In order of prominence, I believe, were signers. First, President Lopez Obrador of Mexico. Second, the sleepy, creepy child sniffer, the unwrapped mummy Biden of Mama America, President. And lastly, Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada. All done for the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion. All three terms bespeak of fairness and justice. Okay, it looks great on paper. In a paragraph directly above, if you choose to Google it, it firmly states, this document in no way gives away American sovereignty. The term equity means fairness and justice. Shouldn't that be applied to securing our national southern border then? You know, since we make up 1/3 of that compact, right? That would make sense. But see, that's not how it works. There are Chinese and Russian nationalists as well as radical Islamists, and none of the three have any love for America, who are right now, on Saturday, October 28, 2023, breaching our southern border and already have sleeper cells. Yeah, we're a bunch of xenophobic archie-bunkers, okay. In the meantime, the southern border must be immediately secured for our national security and sovereignty. Just a final point, you all that vote Democrat out there, you do have somebody worthy of voting for it. He's called Bobby Kennedy Jr., you know, the nephew of the great Democrat President John F. Kennedy. Take note, he's running as an independent because your Democrat Party has rejected him. But nothing to see here. Move along. The dumb clubs are going to come out in force and either vote for the unwrapped mummy or they're going to vote for Gruesome Newsom. A large swath of Sacramento, the capital of the Golden State of California, are tent cities. And also, there is a biolab, a Chinese biolab in California, and they have found this, there is vials of bubonic plague there, as well as other things that are there that would be disastrous if it was unleashed on American populace. And they did find mice in that lab too. So nothing to see here. Move along. But anyway, the dumb calls will come out and vote left anyway, but it's a shame that I have to preach to the choir here. Thanks for letting me call in.
All right, thanks for the call, John. Yeah, well, John pretty much said what I said. Beware of the Democrats. They're evil. Bob in Cape May. Good morning, Bob. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Hey, John. Picking up on what Seth said about the flood regulations, how our freedom is being taken away. And the flood regulations in our building codes are a prime example. Now, if you live in a coastal community on the East Coast, the only area, to my knowledge, where if you want to live in a newer house, right, that requires, see, newer homes, John, you've got to be, depending on what flood zone you're in, you're either in an A zone, which is 11 feet above sea level, or if you're in a V zone, you're 17 to 18 feet, usually above sea level. That's where you have to build a home. So what you have in areas like South Carolina that I'm familiar with, in Florida, these newer homes, these mansions on the beach, on the bay, you've got 18, 20 steps to your first floor. You know what that does to your lifestyle? Even if you're in great shape, 30, 40 years old, it's still not fun going up all those steps. And if you're older and you have joint problems like I do, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just does not work.
Yeah.
Okay?
And, I'm 73, and I don't think it would work for me.
Yeah, and steps are.
Yes, you're right.
Right, exactly. So anyway, and just tying this into government taking away our freedom, not letting the marketplace decide. All right, the marketplace should decide on flood regulations, on height. If you want an absolute house that is not going to flood, build your house. make it 20 feet in the air. Fine. Same with the electric cars. If the marketplace decided the electric cars would just not be viable. They've been rejected by the marketplace. The only reason even the so-called great Tesla is still producing vehicles is because of government subsidies. They have never made a profit on their cars without the government subsidies.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the lunacy of what Murphy, Biden, these people are. Murphy worked on Wall Street,
yeah.
and just like the other guy, the other governor we had that worked on Wall Street. What I'm trying to remember his name. It's terribly unpopular. Corzine. Christie, luckily for us, defeated him, but then anyway, we won't talk about Christie. But Corzine, look, these guys are supposed to be smart guys. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with these people. We are going to be investing trillions of dollars when we're already bankrupt as a country into replacing our gas stations with these charging stations. That alone is insane.
Yeah.
Right? And again, the marketplace doesn't want these cars. My other point here is I absolutely agree with Craig regarding Matt Gaetz. We've got a conservative speaker now, much, much better than McCarthy. Big upgrade on McCarthy, who's hopefully going to be fiscally responsible. So, let's see how this plays out. But, all these country club Republicans that wanted to crucify Matt Gaetz, well, the results are we've got a really great speaker now, in my opinion, and I think conservatives should be really happy. I guess I've run out of steam.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, John. You remember it's kind of a scary place to me as a kid. I used to play soccer up on Southampton Road off Roosevelt Boulevard.
Oh yeah, I remember it well. Yeah, it was kind of an empty lot there, wasn't it?
Well, actually, I used to play at a club soccer up there, and anyway, you passed right through Byberry.
Oh yeah.
That was a scary place, man. It's a tough thing. I mean, a lot of these mentally ill people, for their own good, for society's good, shouldn't be left out on the street. But
no,
man,
that's true.
Those were not nice places.
No,
they weren't.
They weren't. Believe me. Yeah, no. You're right. But we still got to do something about those people, and all these people that are mass shooters. They've all got some kind of mental issue, and that's all we were saying. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We'll take a break, and then we'll have Andy and Brigantine and maybe you at 609-407-1450. Coming back with more Talk with a Purpose after these words.
Atlantic County Sheriff Eric Scheffler continues to create a healthier and safer community for me and my family. Addressing crime goes beyond traditional law enforcement efforts. By embracing a modern, collaborative approach, we bridge the gap between the community and the police. We can tackle issues like mental health, food insecurity, and homelessness. We ask for your support to continue this vital work. Thanks to Eric Scheffler, we are better today and will be stronger tomorrow. This November, re-elect Eric Scheffler for sheriff.
Paid for by Scheffler for Sheriff, Penny Wright Treasurer.
I am Eric Scheffler, and I approve this message.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Back here on Talk with a Purpose, 609-407-1450. Let's get right to it. Andy and Brigantine. Andy, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Hey, John, it's a great day in Brigantine.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me all right?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly address things that you were talking about while I was on hold before I get to my main point. So regarding the shooter, how many times, John, have you seen a sign that says, see something, say something? Have you noticed how they've been popping up on the Parkway?
Yeah.
Okay. So check this, John. See something, say something. Robert Card, the shooter.
Yes.
He said something about himself. He said, I hear voices.
Yeah.
They didn't listen to him. He was out on the street.
Yeah.
So if they don't listen to him when he sees something and says something, why would they listen to any of us? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Charles Krauthammer said years ago, or he said 40 years, that 60 years ago they closed up all of these mental institutions because they don't want to infringe on people's precious freedoms and rights. Well, your freedoms and rights end when your freedoms are risky to my life.
Yes.
I mean, and frankly, they're risky. They put people away not only to protect the public, but to protect these people from themselves. They're a danger to themselves as well.
Yes.
And until we start, committing these people again, we're going to keep having these problems.
That's right.
It isn't about the guns. It's about the mindset. Anything can be used as a weapon if that's your intent. Joran Vandersloot killed Natalie Holloway by crushing her head in with a cinder block. Are we going to ban cinder blocks now? Anything can be used as a weapon.
Yes.
That's your intent.
Yes.
People use U-Haul trucks to run people over. Okay. As far as the electric cars, how good is a product if you have to force people to buy it? John, you were in sales, you were in advertising. A good product sells itself.
That's right.
You don't have to give people money toward buying the product. They'll seek it out and they'll want to buy it themselves. Case in point, the iPhones. Nobody forces anybody to buy iPhones. They seek them out. They wait in line when there's a new one coming
That's
out.
right.
To be the first ones to buy. So, how good are these electric cars? The fact is they're not. Now, John, I worry about you. You were for Trump. You were against Trump. Now you seem to be for Trump again. But I want to address this thing about the stolen election. Now, we were talking last week about Sidney Powell, and I said what Sidney Powell did proves nothing. And so now it comes out this week that once again we were lied to. Sidney Powell never pled guilty to conspiring with Donald Trump to overthrow the election. Sidney Powell pled guilty to misdemeanor in her role vis-a-vis the Dominion software machines. She has not rolled over on Trump, rejected Trump. She has not rejected MAGA, none of that. And here's why it's important, John, for us to find out what happened in 2020. Let's say you had cancer. And let's say, thank God, the doctor was able to cure you. And in the process, the doctor discovered what gave you the cancer. So now you know not to do that again, not to use that product, not to live in that area or drink the water at Camp Lejeune or whatever it is. We need to know what happened in 2020 so that we can protect ourselves from having it happen again. That's why it's important to find out. So once you let it go, it's just like Joe Biden. They ignore all the stuff with Joe Biden. Look at these 40 people they had, these 40 informants in the FBI that were among the Biden family. Every time they reported something criminal that the Biden family was doing, when it got to the higher ups that run the FBI, they squashed it.
Yeah.
And the guy keeps getting away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, but Andy, back to what you were saying. Okay, so I wasn't for Trump, then I was for Trump. Okay, put that aside. But all I'm saying is we spend a lot of time talking about the past, and we're ignoring the future. That's what the issue is.
Can't we chew gum and walk at the same time, John?
Well, that's true. I mean, that's true.
How many investigations do we have going on, John?
Yeah.
You know, at one time, they spend the taxpayers' money on all of that crap.
Yeah.
With the Russia hoax, with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. What a waste of money that was. And that Durham, not the Durham report, that other guy that got what was the guy that the report, and then he got in front of Congress and he was stumbling and fumbling.
Yeah.
His name was on the report, but he had nothing to do with the investigation.
Yeah.
Not Durham. Mueller.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mueller report. What a waste of money that was.
Oh, it sure was. It sure was.
So let's find out what happened in 2020, even as we look forward to the future, to make sure it doesn't happen again. And let's get Trump back in there.
Yes, that we got to do. You got to get Trump in. Andy, thanks for the call. We're running up against the clock, which we always do here on the program. It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday 9 till noon here on WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I just wanted to mention thanks to Phyllis, who's sent me a copy of a letter she wrote to Congressman Van Drew, and she is denouncing Hamas and Hezbollah, and I agree with her. But interesting that she mentioned here, I'll just quote one thing. I want to suggest that the yakking quartet of anti-Semitic, hateful congresswomen, Bush, Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, and Tlaib, consider leaving the United States and relocating to another more relevant place aligning with their ideology. Amen to that. And thanks for the letter. Well written, by the way, from Phyllis of Ocean City. It is Talk with a Purpose, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 on the way. Don't go away.
.5 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
Hour number 2, Talk with a Purpose every Saturday 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Good to have you with us. And as always, the number here in the studio, 609-407-1450. We are wide open this hour. Plenty of open lines. Plenty of time for you to get in at 609-407-1450. No waiting, as they say in the business. No waiting. 609-407-1450. A lot to talk about in this hour. And again, Joe Yakovich will be coming in at 11 o'clock with his financial information. But before we get to that, couple of things. I want to thank TT from Northfield. She sent me this letter, and it is thanking President Trump for bringing home Yitz Friedman with the Washington-based American Accountability Foundation. He thanked President Trump for making it possible for him and his wife to get back to the U.S. from Israel after the war broke out. This was possible through the Abraham Accords, which is a historic peace effort with Israel and the UAE, which they agreed to normalize public relations. So thanks to TT for sending me that. Under the heading of public nuisance, and I don't know where you live. If you live in Brigantine or you live in Ventnor, they've been talking about this ordinance, and I think they should pass it. It's trying to ban short-term rentals. over the Memorial Day weekend in 2023, Ventnor had 370 calls. 370 calls when they had more than that in all of 2022. So they had more in Memorial Day weekend in 23 than they did in all of 22. DUIs, nuisance calls, and, they've got to do something about these short-term rentals. I mean, the casinos, that's their business. They want to, rent, you can get a room for 1 or 2 days or 3 days. Okay, fine. But in a residential community, to rent a home for 2 days and they only allow 3 cars and they park 9 cars. So it's a party house. And it is a nuisance as far as the public is concerned. I mean, it hasn't happened to me, but I'm sure it's happened. And in Brigantine, there are a lot of short-term rentals, so it's a problem. Short-term rentals. Will they ban it in Brigantine or in Ventnor, or will they make an ordinance to control it? We'll see. We'll keep you posted on that. Let's talk to John in Ocean City. John, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Yes, good morning. Regarding voice-to-skull technology, was that used with Robert Card? I don't know. How about Adam Lanza that was diagnosed as mentally ill but was pumped up with psychotropic drugs, which can cause severe homicidal or suicidal tendencies? I don't think that was a smart idea. That's the kid that went up and fired on those kids at that nursery center or school over in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Yeah. Anyway, I want to bring up this. It's called, wait a second. Oh, boy, here we go. All right, here it is. A directed energy weapon, DEW, is a ranged weapon that damages its target with highly focused energy without a solid projectile, including lasers, microwaves, particle beams, and sound beams. Potential applications of this technology include weapons that target personnel, missiles, vehicles, and optical devices. Okay, now I'm bringing this up because this is regarding the Lahaina fires in Maui. Hawaiian Governor Josh Green had walked out of a Lahaina town hall where people were voicing their concerns about what they saw. What they saw, some people saw this. They saw these things. They saw houses burned to the ground, and at the same time, a palm tree would be left untouched. A frog that was in mid-leap had its arms and legs extended, but was not. The body was intact, but it was charred. A dog on the road, its body was intact, but its outer body was charred. And also a kid was hugging his doggie for comfort, and they found his body intact. Not a skeleton hugging a skeleton. A full body of this kid. They found a human being with his hair in braids. He was still like they were petrified. It looked like they were petrified like petrified rock or whatever, petrified wood rather, like that. And somebody who had said it's involved with that, he says the reason why that happens like that, how cars can be melted down and how houses can be reduced to dust. And yet a palm tree can be standing still, but the inside of it's burned up in the middle, in the center of it, is because microwave energy does not go after organic material. It does. It was grass. There was actually grass there that was left unburned. That's weird because that's organic material. But the water, the only thing that's organic that microwave energy will affect is water. That means the palm trees that have water inside of them, that water was dried up inside the palm tree, but the tree itself, the outer exterior of the tree, was still intact. So yeah, there's something going on here that's really fishy as far as I'm concerned. There's something rotten in Denmark. We had better wake up. It's the 21st century. We ain't in the 20th century anymore. It's a new paradigm. Wake the heck up, man. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the call. There's a good wake-up call. Wake up. Oh, Talk with a Purpose is the show, Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Congratulations to Mike Johnson. He is the new Speaker of the House. Finally, we have a new Speaker. Yes, Mike Johnson. He is a Republican from Louisiana, a deep conservative, not as well known as some of the others, but he is swept through on the first ballot, support from all Republicans. They now have unified behind Johnson and will now get on with the business of governing. Isn't that amazing? Johnson was quickly sworn into office. Of course, Donald Trump chimed in. I think he's going to be a fantastic speaker, Trump said. Well, we're glad about that. Now we can get on with the business of governing. Finally. Congratulations to Mike Johnson, and we wish him well. Bob and Cape May. Bob, good morning. Welcome back.
Hey, John, I want to get to short-term rentals, but look, the behind-the-scenes truth of what happened with this so-called speakers fiasco, where Matt Gaetz was being crucified in a lot of Republican circles. The truth is what happened, we would have had a new speaker in 3 days, but Kevin McCarthy, the duplicitous Kevin McCarthy, he stabbed the various candidates, starting with Scalise, Jim Jordan. He stabbed them in the back. Okay, he was working behind the scenes to stab these guys behind the back. This is coming from Nancy Mace, who's one of the gang of 8 that got rid of McCarthy, but she's not a flamethrower. She's more on the moderate side, but she was just sick and tired of Kevin McCarthy lying to her. So I'm glad we got rid of that snake. We wouldn't have had this 3-week torturous process if not for Kevin McCarthy trying to keep control. His latest attempt that didn't work was become a dual speaker with Jim Jordan, where McCarthy's speaker, Jordan's vice speaker. All right, that didn't fly, and McCarthy was outmaneuvered. That's why Mike Johnson, a good man, was elected. And, McCarthy, look, he voted for Johnson. Yes, he did. He voted for Jordan. But behind the scenes, he was doing everything to undermine these guys. That's the truth of it. That's coming direct from Nancy Mace, coming direct from a lot of conservatives. So that's a story on that. Look, short-term rentals, okay, they can be a big problem, a very big problem, if you have irresponsible landlords. Siesta Key, where I spent my winters for 20-plus years. You're familiar with Siesta Key, correct, John? I think you are, right? Yeah. So we built a condo complex, a small one, about 3 blocks from the Village. They call it the Village. It's their little downtown where all the bars and restaurants are. It's a great area 20 years ago. Great area. It has become a short-term transient nightmare down there, where you have all these, as I said, transient rentals. These newer complexes are built where you have 10 bedrooms, a bunch of bathrooms. It's all bedrooms and bathrooms just to stuff people in there. They make huge money. I mean, like a 4,000 square foot home now that's designed built for short-term rentals is going for up to 20 G's a week, 20,000 a week. Wow. Okay. But what happens is it's a zoo down there, and they rent to anybody. Like you've got spring break. The spring breakers are there. We had John. That was a Siesta Key is a really nice place to be all winter.
I know.
But we've had in front of our property on Beach Road, we've had the street closed off by young teens fighting in the street. Not 2 or 3. I mean, I'm talking a couple hundred. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So and there was a property built right across the street from us. And I don't know what's with these landlords and these rental companies. They had 60 high school age teenagers there on the weekend.
Whoa!
You know what they and they were coming in and out and making noise.
Whoa.
And you know what they do to a property like that? And I just don't understand it.
I really don't either. No, well, it's a problem. You're in the motel business, and motels are designed for short term. But I mean, a residential area like Brigantine or Ventnor or any of those, to rent a home for 2-3 days. It's a party house, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
Oh, it is. And look, John, I've been in this business a long time. When you get a call, all right, from you could tell it's a young guy on the phone. See, and the problem now, people don't call anymore. You can't screen what the hell you're getting.
Yeah, that's right.
When you get a young guy calling, and he needs 2 beds, you have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The worst time I ever had in this business in my 40 years here was Cape May thought it was a great idea to host the National Lifeguard races, right?
Yeah.
And he did it like 2 out of 3 years in season when we don't need any more business. I mean, we're full. We don't need these guys, right?
Yeah.
It was the worst time. I mean, you know, I can't tell you the aggravation I went through.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost
you wanted to sell at that point.
I mean, I had like 10 guys in a room where they only reserved it for 2. And, John, I mean, I just want to kill these guys.
Yeah.
I just wanted to destroy these guys, okay? Well, it was just,
Oh, it is too much. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Bob, thanks for the call. Thanks. Oh, yes. Short-term rentals. Well, that belongs, let them go to the casino and pay whatever it is that the casino rate is. That's what hotels are designed for. Couple days. Not residential homes. Oh, well. I guess that's a nice problem to have because it's a moneymaker. That's the other problem. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We'll talk to Craig after the break, and maybe we'll talk to you. A little slow on the phones today, but maybe we'll pick it up. 609-407-1450 is the number here. 609-407-1450. Yeah, Donald Trump's in the news once again. We'll talk about him and another survey which has come down the pike and says people don't want Biden. But we knew that already. But you never know. I hope they don't elect him again. 609-407-1450. Coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment. But first, we want to talk about, as I've said before, there is no controversy here. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT, home of course, the Lexus in our area. And they have the finest automobile on the market today, bar none. They are second to none. And it's been proven many, many times. Lexus of Atlantic City. And if you drive a Lexus, or if you're thinking of driving a Lexus, you want to test drive it. That's okay. You can test drive it, see for yourself if you like it. And I guarantee you will. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT, online, aclexus.com, aclexus.com. Check out the website. You'll see all of the vehicles there, pre-owned, new, you name it, you'll see it. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT, and again, online, aclexus.com. Driving a Lexus is like no other experience that you will find. Lexus of Atlantic City has all kinds of vehicles, and if you want to go pre-owned, you can do that, and you can save yourself some money. And Lexus L certifies them, and that means it's their way of saying it's a top-notch vehicle. They have some new SUVs, and you may have seen the commercials on TV, and they are fabulous. So check that out as well. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road, EHT, online, aclexus.com. aclexus.com is the website. We're coming back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
I'm Seth Grossman for libertyandprosperity.com. Americans are the most understanding, generous, and compassionate people in the world. That is why our enemies are using those virtues as weapons to destroy us. They are deliberately bringing millions of poor and angry people from failed socialist countries around the world to make America a failed socialist country. They know that walls, fences, and even thousands of Border Patrol agents can't stop everybody determined to get through. The only way to stop them is to arrest every person found in our country illegally and send them back. But our enemies think that Americans are too understanding, generous, and compassionate to ever do that. Do most Americans care more about the suffering of people coming to our country illegally than the future of our own children and grandchildren? Learn more at libertyandprosperity.com. Help us reach more people. Join our weekly breakfast. Donate what you can to keep us on the air and online. libertyandprosperity.com. Thanks.
Vince Polistina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Polistina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Polistina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Polistina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Polistina. This ad was paid for by Polistina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
And we are back here on Talk with a Purpose. 609-407-1450 is the number here in the studio. 609-407-1450. We'll get to the calls. I did want to talk about a very disturbing survey, to say the least. It's really, boy, you want to talk about confidence in the government. Whew, boy. But we'll do that after the calls. Craig in Northfield. Craig, welcome back.
Well, good morning again. And I just want to say thank you, Bob and John, for agreeing with me. You know, John, and it's a serious event because Kamala Harris, our vice president. Did you hear what she said this week?
No, but I can't wait till you tell us, because I'm
ding
sure
dong. I mean, ding, 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 dong. She is a ding dong. She said that we should do what Australia did, and that's confiscate all the weapons. Did you see that? They had a turn-in program. They don't have any. What was the biggest thing that the individuals in Israel wanted when they saw those parachutes coming down from the sky, okay, with those Afghanistan weapons that Biden left behind to kill those people? What do you think that they wanted?
Guns.
Okay. Actually, let's get a little bit more specific. AR-15.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Know why? It's a small little bullet, John. It's not like a big thing. What the thing about that gun is that it's accurate. So before they land it down to the ground, when you got an invasion like that, just imagine, they'd be gone. So imagine if that happened in Margate, we had an invasion like that. What would you want? Or a brigantine where you live?
AR-15.
Thank you, sir. All right. So, when you talk about these Palestine protesters, just remember what I said. Remember I talked to you about China and these nationals?
Yes.
Okay. And you see what's going on in New York and the colleges with these protesters?
That's disturbing. It really is.
Okay.
It really is.
So, let's say we go to war. All right. So now, do we have half of our nation for protecting our nation, or do we just have the whole nation? Because remember when we went to the Iraqi war, even though it wasn't the right war, you saw the support of the whole nation.
Yes.
Do you think that we would have that right now?
I don't think so.
Look at that. You're hesitant.
No, I don't think so.
But it shouldn't even be a hesitation.
It shouldn't,
it's our country.
It
right?
No, it's right. It shouldn't be, but...
It shouldn't be a hesitation. So we're letting all these people in through the borders. And you know what? When the people from Chicago start to wake up, did you know they're waking up?
It's about time.
Oh my God! You won't believe it. So they all of a sudden, Bidenville and our wonderful, Attorney General, who, every other word out of his mouth, I don't even know what he says. They're implanting 2,000 people in a tent city, in Chicago.
Boy,
2,000. So now, just imagine. Now you got to remember, they're from a whole different country. The culture's totally different, and that's what's going on there. So all of a sudden, they go by their rules, their regulations, and whatever we have set up in society in this hierarchy of our country goes to the wayside.
Yeah.
Even the people from Chicago go, "Whoa, stop right there! We're not going to have this in our streets. You're not going to do this to our children." Even though we're killing our children, you're not going to have all this stuff around our stuff. So even they know that this will take them a step lower than where they are right now.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
So I do want to just say, I know you're going to talk about Donald J. Trump, and I'm just going to say that what's the poll at right now?
Oh, this is about Congress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Donald Trump is at 62%.
Of Republicans.
Yes. But listen, did you see where the independents are?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, no, it's very strong. Donald J. Trump again.
Yeah. Well, the last survey I saw with Trump versus Biden, it was kind of even. But, I don't trust that because, Hillary and Trump were even. And then look what happened. So, you can't trust the surveys.
No, and I'm going to leave you with this, John. One of the things that's looked up the most by the youth of our country, by that I mean the people that are in college and right out of college that have a job right now that aren't could be the word I'll use from the 70s, drafted. That's the number one thing looked up on Google right now from the youth. So they're concerned.
Yeah.
If you think for a second somebody that can't deal without their own personal cell phone has a trouble getting to work and it's a big effort, you can imagine how feared they are of being drafted. Could you imagine how the world will turn upside down?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You have a wonderful day,
You
John.
too, Craig. Thanks for the call.
Thanks.
Phil in Little Egg. Phil, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning. I was just referring to this article in the Post on page 2, Thursday's paper.
Yeah.
It says here, LGBTQ group, no Zionists. The leader of an LGBTQ group at Columbia University is excluding any supporters of Israel for an upcoming black lesbian film event. The Post has learned. Now, can you imagine these LGBTQ group going over to Palestine? What will happen to them?
Oh, my God.
What would happen to them,
man.
these idiots? These jackasses that don't know exactly what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. I mean...
And it's a big article.
Yeah.
It's on page 2.
Oh, my God. I just don't understand it. I mean, to me, and I'm sure you look at it the same, this thing with Hamas and Hezbollah, whatever they call themselves, they are terrorists, plain and simple. They are bad people. So why is anybody supporting them? I mean, I don't understand it.
They're not schooled.
No.
They're not schooled.
Well,
they're not schooled at all.
And that's what they're going to school for. Yeah. Phil, thanks for the call. Barbara in Brigantine. Barbara, good morning. Welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Yes. About 20 minutes ago, you had a fellow on there talking about the fires in Hawaii.
Yes.
And what was that? He was saying something about microwaves or radiation. I didn't understand what it was about.
I didn't understand some of it either because.
Well, I would find out because the way it sounded, I don't know. There's something going on there that's not right.
Yeah, you know what the problem is? John talks too fast. You're talking about John. I know that. he talks very fast, and sometimes, maybe the words get kind of jumbled up. So yeah, we'll find out from him. He will certainly call back. And
yeah, because you never know what started that fire. That's what he was insinuating. That's the important thing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for the call, Barbara. Let's talk to Anonymous. Good morning. You're on Talk with a Purpose.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me on. I like to stay anonymous due to the circumstances. I'm elderly. We have what you would call a B&B. And just recently I found out I'm not allowed to have it because of the codes and the different things. So, but I have had probably about 15 to 20 guests come to my house, and everyone that leaves it immaculate. They don't cause any problem. One couple stayed for 2 weeks. One couple stayed for the weekend. The company we deal with charges a very high security deposit. Of course, they get their fair share too. But I was listening to the gentleman talking about the short-term rental of his condo and that they wrecked it. Well, if you charge them a large enough security deposit, then they're going to want their security deposit back, and they're going to follow the rules. You got to put up a statement or like a welcome letter to let them know that these are the rules. But the company we deal with, they're totally responsible. There's I guess it's up to $1 million of a insurance. If there's any damages, if there's any liabilities, it's not on me anymore.
Yeah.
It's on them.
Yeah.
But
let me just comment on that. I remember many years ago, I had a rental property in Ocean City, and I think I charged $300 security. Now that's going back 20 years or so. And that didn't matter because two of the tenants, they literally wrecked the place. And, I decided after that was it. I didn't rent it anymore because I just didn't want to deal with that. And it wasn't worth, the short-term gain wasn't worth the long-term aggravation. So I don't know, maybe it's a deterrent, but not necessarily. I don't think so.
Well, it's like everything else, John.
Yeah.
When a few people make it bad for the majority.
Yeah,
of
that's
the
true.
people.
That's true.
And that's sad, very sad, because we let our country and everything else be ran by just the opinions and the actions of just a few people.
Yeah.
When really in the big picture, there's people like me who really depend. I made enough money to pay the fines. Let me say that. Two times over. They haven't said anything to me yet. I'm not going to open up that Pandora's box or that can of worms. We're going to see what happens, and hopefully on our side, we don't have to stop what we're doing. It's the clean business. It's just two people are only allowed to have two people here. And it's in my home. I'm here while they're here. I won't go anywhere. I'm here. So fortunately, we haven't had any bad experiences.
Yeah,
but I know that the company, they charge a very high security deposit, and these people want their money back.
Well, you're the exception because you restrict that. You have a lot of regulations there, and you know your people, and they're all good people. So, I don't think they're talking about you. I'm
getting strangers. I'm getting people. I have people here right now from Massachusetts. Never met them before in my life, but because I trust the company that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
You've got Airbnb, you've got Booking.com, you've got VRBO, you have the Evolve. There's many companies out there that would be more than willing to deal with and get their 20%. So you don't have to worry about anything. Well, they even supply the cleaning lady.
That's good. Maybe more people should call them.
A lot of people are unaware of the advantages of using one of those companies as opposed to trying to rent themselves because it's all on them.
Yeah.
Instead of and the companies, they stand behind everything.
I would do what you do. That's what I would do. Yeah. Oh, that's good point.
So
Thanks.
I'm hoping.
Thanks for
Our code was enacted in 1998 in where I live, and I'm hoping that if I do get caught, that I might get together with a few of the other people that really want to do this in my area, and also the restaurants that have the sleepover B&B capabilities. I know that they want to do it too and have been kind of shying away. They don't want that fine. But if and when I do get to the point where I have to defend myself, I will do it in a nice way and bring it across to them how much of a benefit is. Listen, I get wine from the winery. I put 2 bottles of wine out. I get the flyers that say the local restaurant likes your business. The other local restaurant likes your business. We have plenty of activities where we live. We're close to the shore. You're close to Philadelphia. So it makes it nice and it's inviting for the people. Plus, it's good for e-commerce.
Yes, that's true. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. And a lot of good information on that. So if you're renting short term, do what she does. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi, 609-407-1450. We'll take a couple of calls before the Joe Yakovich Hour. No, it's not scary. Because it's Halloween, it's not scary. I mean, he may be wearing a mask today, but it's not scary. Joe Yakovich coming in at 11 o'clock. And before that, we'll talk about a couple of things. 609-407-1450. Got a couple of open lines. We'll come back with more Talk with a Purpose in just a moment.
It's a fall festival at BF Mazzio. All kinds of goodies, including delicious and fresh McIntosh apples, apple cider bread, pumpkin bread, and of course, all sizes of pumpkins. BF Mazzio, where there's always something special. Don't forget the finest fresh fruit and produce you'll find anywhere. And of course, a complete selection of prepared foods and baked goods second to none. BF Mazzio, 601 New Road in Northfield. Online at bfmazzio.com.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Your WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey. Very warm this afternoon with plenty of sunshine, the high up to 85. Mostly cloudy, mild tonight, low dipping to 57. Cooler tomorrow, variably cloudy with a high 66 to wrap the weekend. When you get back at it Monday, mostly cloudy and warm. A shower coming our way in spots in the afternoon Monday with a high 74. I'm AccuWeather's Ruth O'Brien on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We are back here on Talk with a Purpose. If you want to listen to any of our shows at any time, you can do that. Google John DeMasi Podcasts, and they all come up. We're almost at 200 shows, or give or take a couple. John DeMasi Podcast, that's what you Google, and you can get them all right there and listen at any time. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Just want to mention this. A disturbing survey, to say the least. 3% of the population, 3%, have a great deal of confidence in Congress. 3%. But then again, do you blame people? Half of adults, 53%, say they have hardly any confidence in all of the people running Congress. This is according to an Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs survey. 3%. Oh, Congress better get your act together. Roscoe and EHT. Roscoe, good morning.
Good morning, John. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Roscoe?
Good. I just want to mention something I've been thinking about is that the evidence that we have a compromised president is glaringly blasting us in the face because, first of all, when you go back to Afghanistan, the way they withdrew, they gave up Bagram Air Force Base. Now, who's in Bagram Air Force Base now? China. China's teaching them how to use helicopters and everything else.
Yeah.
And who is the smartest man that our president knows? He said he thinks the smartest man that he knows is Hunter.
Probably the Chinese Prime Minister?
No, he said Hunter, his son. He's the smartest man he knows. Now,
that's a real good joke, isn't it? That's a
yeah.
Hey, we ought to use that. The folks at the comedy club in AC ought to use that. You know?
Yeah. Well, to me, that says Hunter's running the show when it comes to foreign policy because I think Joe Biden makes Menendez look like a two-bit street hustler.
Yeah.
Except they're smarter the way they do it. They do it in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to just mention one thing that's really been bothering me is that this Iranian releasing $6 billion to Iranian, which has been sanctioned.
Yeah.
And it's actually their money because they sold the oil. But because of their nefarious actions, it's been sanctioned. But the funny thing is, Obama did something similar before he left, only he gave it in cash.
Yeah, I remember that.
And now Biden's doing the same thing. And just recently we see that they expelled some foreign diplomats or foreign agents in the government. They lost their security clearance because they're directly related to Iran. Now, this has been hush-hush, really, the reason what's going on. But it sure makes you wonder if he's tied to this releasing of the $6 billion. Who orchestrated that? Did they orchestrate that through Hunter to get their kickback?
Probably.
And is that why Biden is so reluctant to say that we will not release the $6 billion or we'll, he acts like we can hold it any time, but it's really not a clear definition of what he's going to do.
Yeah,
so
I agree. I agree.
The evidence says that we have a compromised president, and it goes all the way from China to Iran. And he has to play the game now, and I'm sure he really is indignant about what Hamas did to Israel. That's any fool.
Sure.
That's wrong unless you're a Islamic terrorist. So
listen, Roscoe, he's been a compromised president from day one. That's what I think.
I agree, but why isn't anybody doing the paper trail or whatever the trail like Jim Jordan has been doing to look into any tie with this Iranian sanction release to the Biden crime family?
Well, because many of them are Democrats. And Roscoe, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Andy and Brigantine. Andy, good morning. Welcome back.
Yeah, John, as you know, I live in Brigantine, but before I moved there full time, I owned a house there for 20 years, the house I'm now living in full time. And I can tell you that money is irrelevant. People are pigs. There are people with less money who are spotless. There are people with more money who are pigs.
Yeah.
Pigs are pigs. And I can tell you, I look at short-term rentals the way I look at leasing cars. I have a person that I know who leases a brand new BMW every 3 years, okay? And he tells me, I finally took it through the car wash, like a joke. And I said, did you get the undercarriage done. I said, you really need to do that in the winter, you know, when you get that salt brine.
Yeah.
Because that literally eats cars.
Yes.
So he says, no, I don't bother with that. It's not my car. I don't care. And that's how a lot of people look at leasing a car. They're renting it, and it'll be somebody else's problem in a couple of years, so they don't care if they take care of it. And I think short-term rentals are a lot like that. I got out of that rental business. The last tenant I rented to was, believe it or not, a yearly tenant. They paid 6 months in advance and then never paid another dime and stayed another year and a half for free while I paid for everything. And I had to drag it through the court system to finally throw them out. Cost me $15,000 to make my house habitable again. So I'll never do it again.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience. Yeah, be careful. Yeah.
See you, John.
See you. Thanks for the call. Yeah, that was kind of my experience. The last summer that I rented, boy, I had. You ready for this? I had, and my neighbor told me this, 65 people on my deck, and it wasn't for 65 people. 65 people. And when he told me that, I said, that's it. And that was the end. I never rented again. So, yeah, I've heard those stories. And it's common. It's just part of the business. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We'll talk to John in a minute, and maybe we'll talk to you before we get to Joe Yakovich, who is warming up in the WPG bullpen. Will he throw us some sliders or some curveballs? Boy, he's going to throw us something, that's for sure. 609-407-1450 is the number. I'm John DeMasi. We're coming back. More Talk with a Purpose after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Atlantic County Sheriff Eric Scheffler continues to create a healthier and safer community for me and my family. Eric Scheffler is a steadfast advocate for veterans in our communities. Eric Scheffler's unwavering commitment reminds us that our heroes deserve steadfast support. Thanks to Eric Scheffler, we are better today and will be stronger tomorrow. This November, re-elect Eric Scheffler for sheriff.
Paid for by Scheffler for Sheriff, Penny Wright Treasurer.
I am Eric Scheffler, and I approve this message.
And we are back here on Talk with a Purpose, 609-407-1450. We'll get a couple calls in here before Joe Yakovich. John in Ocean City. John, good morning. Welcome back. Is John there? Oh, hello.
Yes. Okay. I'll slow it down. Regarding the peculiarities of that fire in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii, I just want to repeat this small paragraph here. A directed energy weapon, a DEW, is a ranged weapon that damages its target with highly focused energy without a solid projectile, including lasers, microwaves, particle beams, and sound beams. Potential applications of this technology include weapons that target personnel, missiles, vehicles, and optical devices. That's it kills people, but it doesn't burn their body up. It doesn't attack anything that's organic. Now, what happened in Maui, Lahaina, they found a dog with his body intact, with its fur. Its fur was charred, but it still had its fur on it, on the street in Maui, in Lahaina rather. They found a kid hugging his doggie. The bodies were both intact. The outer part of their physical sheath, you might say, was was charred. Yeah, and they also found a frog in mid-leap with its arms and legs extended out. Of course, it was laying on the ground. It wasn't up in the air. But anyway, that would be a little crazy. But anyway, they also found people trying to swim away from it, and they were found petrified, like they were doing the motion with their arms, like they were swimming away from the fire. So this is all peculiar, and it's microwave. It's directed energy using microwave energy. Microwave energy doesn't affect the organic body of the trees or birds or plants or humans. It does, however, attack water. So like a palm tree can be intact. Its leaves can still be there. Its outer bark can still be there. And the house right next door to it could be burned to cinder. But the inside of that tree has now been destroyed because it goes after water. It's the only organic part of an organic life that directed energy goes after is water. Other than that, it destroys cars and trucks and planes and trains and automobiles, etc. Now, regarding that Declaration of North America, our founders have perused that. They would have considered it traitorous. And the reason why our southern border is open right now is because of that Declaration of North America. Now, the Club of Rome, which is a globalist think tank, and is not headquartered in Rome, Italy, it's headquartered in New York City, has divided the world into 10 zones. And Zone 1 is North America, that being Canada, America, and Mexico. Now, they're going to have a commissar rule each zone. And we're headed for a communist 1984 nightmare. We have to stave it off. But we have to go to the voting booths and make sure our vote counts, for God's sakes. Thanks for letting me call the phone.
Thanks, John, and thanks for explaining that and for slowing down your speech. Joe in Summers Point. Joe, good morning. Welcome to Talk of the Purpose.
Good morning. I'm a recovering addict of 19 years, and I was driving to Atlantic City to get some business taken care of, and the radio station, which I'm now listening to, said that there were Atlantic City is going for 16 businesses that want to sell marijuana. I understand it's all about the money, but I'm on Atlantic Avenue. I'm near the walk, and I'm at a red light, and all of a sudden this big cloud of smoke come through, and it's skunk weed. And I'm going, from years back, I remember, I was like, so I'm going for the next 3 blocks, and I'm feeling kind of goofy, and I'm going, this could trigger me. If I believe in Jesus Christ, and he's the one that saved me 19 years ago from this dreadful mess, and I'm getting everything back that I lost. But this is a trigger for weak people. This is not good for Atlantic City.
Yeah,
I lived in Busby Village from 1955 to 1963, and back then nice and quiet and all that on North Raleigh Avenue. But it's not good for the families coming in that want to go to the casinos or the Steel Pier or whatever. It's just not good.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you justify that, And you make a good point here. I was never for selling marijuana anywhere. I mean, I just don't feel it's appropriate. But, I'm not of that generation. I mean, the kids are like, oh, yeah, well, it's marijuana, yeah. Talk about being
potent. This is potent stuff.
No kidding. And how about people that are in public transportation? And if they smoke it before they come to work, hey, man, you just don't know. I was against it from the very beginning, and you make a good point. I mean, 19 years you've been clean, and that's good, but you could go by the wayside. You never know.
Just a trigger.
It's a trigger. That's it. Yeah, I agree.
I had everything. The head of the road department for Port Republic, a paid-off house. I lost it all. Gorgeous wife, everything. Yeah. But I'm getting that all back now.
Yeah, good.
I'm 68 years old, and I'm doing okay. So.
Good. Thanks for the call, Joe. Yeah, I was really never. I was against legalizing marijuana, and of course, Governor Phil Murphy, he was for it. I don't know why, but you think about it. Ocean City has done the right thing. They don't want any. They're a family resort. They're going to have this? No. But Atlantic City, oh yeah, sure. Let's have this. Let's have that. And you know, the casinos are trying to bring in all kinds of business, family business with the water park and this kind. It just doesn't seem consistent to me that they do that. It's disturbing, and of course we'll talk about it till we're blue in the face. Real quick here, Donald Trump fined $10,000. So what, right? Judge Arthur Engeron fined Trump Wednesday, ruling that his remarks to TV cameras outside the courtroom violated his limited gag order, which bars him from commenting publicly about the judge's staff. However, Trump's lawyers insisted that he was talking about his former attorney, Michael Cohen, who is a totally discredited witness, Trump said, referring to Cohen. And speaking of Cohen, he's a key figure in this New York case, alleging that Trump and his company duped banks. Look, I've said this before. Every business, just about, and I can't say all, but a lot of businesses, and my friend was a business broker for many years, a lot of them inflate their worth, or they deflate their liabilities. They'll inflate their assets. It's just a way of doing business. And Trump is going to trial for this? I've never understood that. But it's an aggressive prosecutor. Oh, well. Talk with a Purpose is the show. Saturdays 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. It is hour number 2. It is in the books. Hour number 3, the Joe Yakovich Hour, coming up. Don't go away.
95.5 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City, WENJHD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 presents Talk with a Purpose. Join the conversation by calling 609-407-1450. Now, the host of Talk with a Purpose, John DeMasi.
Hour number 3, Talk with a Purpose, every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. We like to call this the Joe Yakovich Hour.
Thank you, John.
I mean, it is the Joe Yakovich Hour. I mean, I don't say too much. You know?
No.
You pretty much take over.
I try to fill the time slot.
And in a couple of weeks, you're going to be solo.
I'm looking forward to that. How long are you going for? A month?
2 weeks.
Just in case. I got you always have a backup.
We got you covered here. Chris will make sure you do everything right.
He does a great job.
All right. So I want to, before we get into the show.
Yep.
I've been in your office because I'm studying this Debt-Free for Life.
Right.
And I really like this program.
It's cool, isn't it?
I mean, it's really, it makes sense, and I'm going to sign up for it.
Yep.
So the issue is, can you just explain briefly?
Of course.
How do you get us out of debt?
That's one of my favorite subjects now. I've always had that conversation with clients, but kind of a very lackadaisical way. And what I mean by that, lackadaisical, I didn't really think about that as much as I think about it today, because what people are now going, and you're going to see this now, to increase their lifestyles. The only way they can increase their lifestyles is to put themselves more in debt. And I started to realize this, if I'm able to get people out of debt right up the front and right, and through the first part of the doorway, they recognize that there's other things that could happen. Besides paying their debt off, their retirement looks better. Their stress level actually decreases. But I started to let me just roll back a little bit here. When you start to do the surveys that we've done, and I'm talking about the surveys of the U.S. debt clock and what have you, I'm starting to see debt at, over $20 trillion. So when you start to see that, you go, whoa, 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 whoa. You start to get concerned, because if they go into retirement with that, it's devastation for that person in terms of living a prosperous, retirement life. And then also the fact that some of these costs for colleges, especially student loans, are, in Alpha Centauri. It's like, I can't believe some of the conversations I've had with, docs or soon-to-be docs, and have, hundreds of thousands of debt, and it really puts them in a bad position. So we try to connect with those folks right up front, have a conversation with them, and show them how to get out of debt. And half the time, John, it's amazing. We use a strategy called debt snowballing. And debt snowballing is what happens with people in general when they're paying off their debt. What happens is they don't do it correctly. There's not a systematic way to do it. We have kind of put that in the client's eyes and say, this is the way you're supposed to do it. You just don't pay a little bit here, you pay a little bit there, you pay a little bit there on different types of debt. It could be car loans, it could be student loans, it could be mortgages, etc., or credit cards for that matter also. But when you do it systematically, when you pay off the lowest amount of your debt first, and you continue to bankroll that idea into the next debt, you will completely get out of debt in a dramatic amount of time. It's almost shocking to me when I first saw it. I was like, wow, that's pretty bizarre. Now, we've been working with this for probably 5 years, my partners and I, and now doing it and putting it together with books. You'll see a new book that'll be rolling out shortly that will talk about that. But AI, luckily for us, is they finally caught up to us to be able to offer that in while we're speaking with clients, to get them on the right page, which means when you start to do this, John, you need a little nudge, so to speak.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody looking over your shoulder and say, listen, we're going to do this. The first month, you're on your way. So that is the constant, because people forget, like everything we're talking about today, listening to you with what's happening with these double wars that are taking place and what have you. It's out of sight, out of mind all of a sudden. We hear more of the Israel situation than we do now with the Russian-Ukraine situation. It's kind of shifted, and we get away from the spotlight of Hunter Biden's issues politically, and now it's kind of a funny thing how we receive our information, but this debt thing, once you start it and you get it, really off your table, so to speak, and you really pay it down as quickly as possible, it gives you a flexibility to be able to save more, do the things you want to do. If you want to buy real estate, if you want to buy Bitcoin, it doesn't matter to us. But what we found using, and I have to give him some credit, Dave Ramsey, Dave gets you out of debt, but you have no money at the end of the case. So you end up going back into debt. We've taken that to a whole new level. So we help people do that, and at the end of that duration, we give them a chunk of money left over so they can do and not get back into debt.
Okay, I got a question.
Sure.
A lot of people are in credit card debt. Mm-hmm. By the way, this morning on our news here, they were saying banks last year made $1.2 trillion in credit card fees.
Okay.
Whoa. Whoa.
Not a bad deal.
Whoa.
Right? Need to be a banker.
I'm getting into the bank business. So let's say somebody is $20,000 in debt, credit cards.
Okay.
How quickly can you get them out of debt as opposed to just getting out of debt on their own?
Well, if you really look at their credit card statement in fine print.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I'm about to say. You can actually see if you just pay the minimum amount, you'll be out in 10 years. We have a different format. We have a different program to be able to get that person out of debt a little faster. So what we do is we ask the question, are you right now presently putting any more money against getting out of debt? We get yeses and nos. So it's not even 50-50. He said, yeah, I give another $100 a month or another $50, whatever the number is. We take that and put it into what we call a SDIC, which is a specially designed insurance contract, and whereby you continue with this contract to be able to get a guaranteed rate of return with a dividend and interest, compounds, which is what the banks are doing, compounding your money. That's how they make money. And we're able to build that up to a point where very short period of time, almost half the time, if not more, in terms of half the time, you pay your debt off. So you pay your $20,000 off in half the time it would normally take you if you do it traditionally. And then we go to the next debt. So we actually knock the lowest amount down first, then attack the next one, and then the next one. So if you're telling me you're going to be in debt in 19.6 years, we'll have you out in debt in under 10 years. And it's really
that's half the time.
Half the time. So it really gives that person, that client, that individual, who they are, they could be business owners or individuals that we speak to all every day, to be able to get them out of debt. And then the question becomes, it's so funny, John, because when you start to do that, the person says, well, Joe, what else are you able to help us with? It automatically, and it opens the door. It really does, John. It's bizarre because you're really helping people. This is not a sales pitch. This is being able to help people get out of debt is brilliant. When Dave did it in terms of Ramsey, but he missed the spot of being able to do that, really fulfill the end game for us. We've taken that to a whole level. So now we're getting people out of debt. We're helping them get out of debt not only faster, but we're giving them the opportunity to really, truly retire comfortably without stressing them stuff out. And we talk to this through with people every day, John, but what I find interesting, and not everyone believes this, but there's a lot of folks out there. We've been working a long time, in 30, 40 years, and I've heard all these things that people tell me. We always want people to have a little side hustle. When I say side hustle, that's a new buzzword. I want them to do things after they're fully retired. And they can do something part-time just to kind of keep them in the mix, to keep them, not sitting on the, couch and watching TV all day. So one of the things we talk about is getting out of debt. What do you do next? And how can you spend your money? Because a lot of times, John, it's funny as it may be, people have money and they don't spend it in retirement. It's kind of bizarre to me. And I get them to understand that you're able to do that because you have no longer this debt hanging over your head. Yeah. And it really is a transformation when you see and feel that you can it's almost, you want to almost like give them a big hug. We go, wow, I never saw it. And we're having people now all over the country we're working with. That's what I'm saying. There's another book we're rolling out, and we're using AI for the book, believe it or not. But it's bizarre that when we do it, you can see so many other opportunities for that individual to take, full advantage of.
All right, it's Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. It's the Joe Yakovich Hour, and Joe is here, and he's ready to talk to you if you have some questions. 609-407-1450, 609-407-1450. That's our number here in the studio. If you have a financial side question for Joe or a question about the debt-free for life, he's here and ready to talk to you and answer your question. We're going to talk about... Boy, clients have got to be nervous these days when they're thinking about their retirement. I mean, you talk about unsettling issues. I mean, the election next year, the stock market is, it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. You talk about a roller coaster there. What are a few of the things that you suggest that maybe could ease their mind as they are entering into retirement?
Well, John, we send our podcast out. We send our newsletter out every week, and the one we just sent out was, I call that the 4 do's, 4 don'ts, and 1 never do. The 4 do's is what we want to make sure when we sit down with anyone. We want to find out how much do you need to go into retirement, or how much do you need to run your household? That includes everything, all in. We're talking about the mortgage. We're talking about car payments. We're talking about taxes. We want to get a number there. And that number is a number that obviously increases only because of inflation. But we want to be able to at least extract that number from the individual and say, okay, now we know what we have to do to suffice that number. And that number could come from pensions. It could come from Social Security. And we want to make sure we address that right up front. And when we do that, John, for the long term, once you determine how much income you need, in retirement and guaranteed income. Because when people say to me, John, it's really wild. You know, I have some securities. I go, securities? Yeah, I have stocks. That's secure? It's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah,
you know, I go, wow.
It's anything but.
Right. I mean, I have one here, John, just before I go on to this. And again, it's a Teladoc, which provides virtual healthcare services through AI. The symbol was TDOC. In 2015. It IPO'd at $19 a share. It went up, believe it or not, John, to over $300 a share. It imploded. It went down 94%. Think about what I'm saying to you. This is the same stock that was in ARK, Innovated ETF, and the company executives were handed big chunks of money, and the employees a big fat stock compensation package. And think about it. I mean, people had that money invested, and they went from 300. They went now it's down to almost zero. So, talking about volatility, this happens all the time.
Not secure, of course.
Not at all. And that's why I say when you talk about stocks, be careful what you say to me, because it's not they call it a security, but it's kind of like a weird thing when they say that, because it's not secure. We use a very definitive GPS income plan foundation for our client to enjoy that. The other thing, John, we shelter a portion of your money, and you know what I'm talking about here when it comes to retirement, so you don't run out of money. You know, it's having some of your dollars into fix. They could be Social Security, they could be pension, they could be annuities that will give you a income that you're going to need moving forward. If you want to take more risk, that's your plan. We show different variations of that, but at the end of the game, John, you need to have, and for me, the biggest concern is not running out of money when you factor in inflation. And John, my wife said it the other day. It's a bizarre to me when she said this to me, and I didn't realize it. She says, I go to Acme and I just use Acme as, one of the places that we go to get food and what have and produce. But we also go to Walmart and pick up certain things. The price difference is dramatic. Like you can buy, what do you call it? The things you put in your ear, you clean your ear out,
Q-tips.
Q-tips. Well, guess what? For $8, thank you very much, Chris. I know you would help me. He's got one right now. You can go and buy that at that store at $8. You go to Walmart, you pay $3 for it. I'm just wondering, is there a difference of Q-tips? I don't know. But again, these are the numbers that we are seeing with inflation, John. And no matter where you go, inflation is really something. It's almost like the stealth bomber. You don't feel it, you don't see it, you don't smell it, but it's there in the air, and you cannot stop it. And what's happening now, you're seeing it really creep into everything we deal with. We almost get embedded and say, well, that's no big deal. It is a big deal, because if you're in retirement and you're not working, or you're getting ready to downside a little bit in yourself and say, listen, I'm not going to work the 50 hours or 60 hours or whatever. What do I do, and how do I continue to live off the income that I didn't have from work? It's a changed game out there. And the other thing on your callers, and it's bizarre to me because I have this conversation with business owners all the time. Where are the people? What happened to people like us that would love the work and enjoy what we do? You can't find quality of people. So this ripple effect of inflation, not having quality people, it's going to start to come to a point, and that's where you're going to see the market start to make its pullback here. There are pullbacks that are going to happen. Even right now, as I mentioned, at the end of the year, you should be looking at different strategies specifically for companies that you can, maybe take some tax losses or do some charity giving. So there's a lot of different things that we talk about, but at the end of the day, John, this inflation thing and longevity and tax thing and volatility is really, really staring us in the face that we've never seen before.
You're going to have a guest.
I have a guest coming on.
We'll take him after the break.
You got it.
We're coming up on a break, and then we'll get to Joe's guest, and we'll get more of Joe. It's the Joe Yakovich Hour, as we like to say. Mm-hmm. Joe is JML Financial. His website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, and his number during the week is 856-751-1037. 856-751-1771. Joe's got a couple of books. If you want copies of those, you can get them. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But right now, it's Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich of JML Financial. We will come back, and Joe will introduce his guest after these words.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
It's a fall festival at BF Mazzio. All kinds of goodies, including delicious and fresh McIntosh apples, apple cider bread, pumpkin bread, and of course, all sizes of pumpkins. BF Mazzio, where there's always something special. Don't forget the finest fresh fruit and produce you'll find anywhere. And of course, a complete selection of prepared foods and baked goods second to none. BF Mazzio, 601 New Road in Northfield. Online at bfmazzio.com.
We are back here on Talk with a Purpose. Again, Joe Yakovich is our guest. Joe is JML Financial. And if you want to reach Joe during the week, 856-751-1771. That's the number, 856-751-1771. You'll talk to Lynn. That's the brains of the outfit.
That's absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean,
she is.
You just bypass.
It's almost too funny you say that, because when we have been saying this for the last couple of years, and people, when they start to work with me, they go, "We know. Lynn's the boss." I said, "Okay, you're right. You must have heard that someplace." But,
yeah.
You know. But I want to talk.
Well, I picked that up right away. I mean, come on. You know?
Pretty obvious. But we have a guest, Tom Goberg. Tom is a buddy of ours. He does forensic accounting and fraud investigation for companies and looking at companies to make sure the abuses of certain companies people don't know about. And what Tom has done really has put together a TSR. He'll explain that to you in a minute. But he is the one that really, when we start to look at companies, this is where it's getting really hokey because of what just happened with the suppression of the interest rates. And now what you have companies coming in and trying to get a better return for their shareholders or their stockholders and what have you. You know, you got to be careful where the money is invested inside some of these companies, these private equity firms that go in and buy insurance companies and buy other companies. So Tom's going to, I'm going to have it open up to Tom, and Tom's going to be the expert here, because when we talk about purchasing companies or looking at companies for our clients to invest their money in, we don't want to have egg on our face and come back to the client and say, "Oh, we made a mistake. This is not the company that I thought it was." Tom and what he does with his firm investigates these type of companies and lets us know what are the best companies out there to invest the client's money. Tom, good morning.
Joe, it's great to be on your show.
It's great that you to hang out with us today, Tom.
Joe, you know why I'm willing to do your show even though I'm slammed busy? Because you are a thinker and a doer, and that's who I like to work with. You've got energy, and most importantly, I can tell you care about educating folks, and that's my primary objective.
Well, thank you, Tom, and I feel the same way.
Explain things that they might not be aware of, right?
Right. So, Tom, and I appreciate that, and we feel the same way right back at you, and you know that. And the people we are in associated with, even with the Debt for Life strategy. Right. Tom, tell the audience, because I don't know if it was you or our protege sent something to me the other day about private equity in Italy and so forth, the solvency turmoil. But I guess that happens all over the globe. And share with the audience, what you look at, what you do, how you yourself and your what you've put together help us talk to our clients and users, please.
Yeah. So my specialty is deep dive analyses of insurance companies. I can work fraud cases on other types of businesses, but by far, 37 years of digging into the statutory financials of these insurance companies. And what I try to do is alert people to things that they can't see, because the reporting on these companies can be really complicated. One annual statement of one of the large companies, 3,880 pages of fine print, right?
Whoa.
And so what I have to focus on are those things that jump out at me, patterns that reach out and slap me in the face, right? And those are the kinds of things people need to be aware of, because unfortunately the insurance consumers, right, policyholders, annuitants, and now pensioners have a big tie to the life companies. What I want them to be aware of are the things that they can't necessarily see that is natural to me and what I do day in and day out. So for a while, Joe, and you've heard me talk about this before, there have been patterns over the last several decades that have troubled me. But it is more recently when private equity began diving into this industry. Now, let me be clear about something, Joe. There are great life insurance companies, life and annuity companies. There are really good ones that are honest. They report truthfully, and they invest prudently. They might invest a little bit in some of the higher risk stuff just to tweak their yield up a little. But what I'm focusing on are the companies that have way too high a concentration in the types of assets that are higher risk, and that means often less liquid, all right? Am I headed the direction that's helpful to you? You want to ask me anything?
No, I was just about, you gave me the layup. Give us an example, Tom, for our audience, because, when you dive in deep, and I kind of get that because I've been following you, I've read your book.
Sure.
And so I'm in the game with you, but I think the average person, no pun intended, but the average Joe out there don't give it much thought, because the person that they're talking to, and it could be even the advisor, probably don't even know that information. So share with us what that typically would look like.
Exactly. So a lot of the people that I help are advisors, and these aren't just any advisor. These are advisors that care. They say, I want to sell a good product. Of course, you only would sell a product that is right for someone. But now they're beginning to realize, I only want to sell a product with a company that I know is going to be around long term, right? That means they have to structure their entire business model with long-term thought. And the problem with that is that private equity has not been doing that throughout their history. They look for quick profits in all different kinds of ways. And so they used to not even be allowed to get into the life industry.
Right.
I was shocked when they were first allowed in, because they don't think like a traditional insurance executive.
Right.
So I'm seeing two major things, and especially the private equity. But I have to say, there are some high-flying for-profit companies, publicly traded, that aren't private equity but are also way too risky. So I'm in those companies. What I'm seeing are two major concerns. One is, let me give an example. Say we've got a company, this is an actual example, I'm not going to use their name, but they've got a little less than $2 billion in surplus. But they're a big company. They got more than $170 billion, right, in assets. So if they have less than $2 billion in that buffer, the surplus is the only thing standing between a viable company and a company in receivership, right? So that buffer needs to be adequate. And in this one company, just one category of really higher risk, less liquid assets is more than $21 billion. Think about that. And that's just one category of high risk assets. And so you've heard the old expression, never put all your eggs in one basket. These folks are putting all their eggs in one basket, but the basket is high risk. And so since their surplus isn't really enough to handle that kind of gambling, that gives me pause. So the first concentration that worries me is high-risk assets, right, relative to their size. But on the other side, this is really important, and I think I've come up with a way to explain it a little better for your listeners. In reinsurance, when an insurance company reinsures with another company, that means they are passing off those promises to someone else to be on the hook. And if that reinsurer is independent and they have their own money, they're sophisticated, reinsurance is a great thing. You can lay off layers of risk, right? It makes sense. Mm-hmm. But for 37 years, my specialty has been what they call reinsurance, but it's more for appearance sake. And let me give you a quick example. Suppose I want to borrow money from the bank. I go to the bank and say, hey, I want to borrow some money. And they say, well, you've got this big mortgage. And right now with that big mortgage, we're not willing to lend you the money, right? Suppose I go to my 2-year-old son and I tell him, you're on the hook for this mortgage now, and I go back to the bank and say, I don't owe that mortgage anymore. I got someone else to take it over. Don't you think the bank would say, who is that and do they have enough money?
Right.
Right? To make good on that promise? That's what these carriers are doing. They're ceding reinsurance offshore, Bermuda, Barbados, Cayman Islands, even Malta, for Pete's sake. And they send all these obligations, these promises to people like you and me and to people's clients, right? Mm-hmm. These are people that aren't aware of any of this. So they cede it offshore, and that's like that 2-year-old. Since they won't let us see, the offshores don't let our examiners in the U.S. go down there and examine them. We don't know if it's a wealthy individual or a 2-year-old son with no money. So all I've been saying all these years is, look, just show us, right? Show us that you have the money on the other end, and I'll be okay. And so what does that mean? There's a lack of transparency there, Joe. Right. And where there is lack of transparency, there should be concern. Right? You follow me on that?
No. Yeah. So, Tom, let me ask you, what would you ask, or what would an advisor of our listeners, because not all of them, do business with me, right, but what would you say that a individual that wants to invest, whatever it may be, what are the probably the first question, or the most important question that person should ask the advisor as we're talking this way? What would that question be? So that person's listening today says, this is the question I'm going to ask my advisor about what we're talking about today. What would
Excellent question. And I think the most significant issue is this lack of transparency, because these companies, I gave you that example of that company that had $21 billion in a high-risk category. Right. That same company has $120 billion ceded offshore to an affiliate company, right? Not an independent. So it's not outside money, it's all internal. So I think one really important question to ask of your advisor, and your advisor might not know, but if they don't know, you say, would you please ask and get back to me? And that question is, does the insurance company that I'm interested in have any significant reinsurance offshore? And that is able to confirm. They could talk to the company and find out in a matter of minutes. And if they come back and say, well, yeah, we got $120 billion offshore, I hate to say it, but I would not be comfortable doing business with them.
Tom, we're going to take a break here.
Sure.
It's one of these things in radio. We got to pay the bills.
But no, Tom, that was great. I thank you very much for your time. But
we're going. I got a question for
okay,
Tom
you got it.
After the break. It's Talk with a Purpose every Saturday 9 till noon. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich and his guest Tom Gober. We'll get to Tom and Joe and questions right after this timeout.
Atlantic County Sheriff Eric Scheffler continues to create a healthier and safer community for me and my family. Sheriff Scheffler is a visionary leader dedicated to creating change in our community. With a passion for aiding those with substance use disorder and mental health challenges, Scheffler established a Hope One program. Hope One connects individuals and families with the recovery services they need to save lives. We are better today and will be stronger tomorrow. This November, re-elect Eric Scheffler for sheriff.
Paid for by Scheffler for Sheriff, Penny Wright Treasurer.
I am Eric Scheffler, and I approve this message.
If you're interested in driving one of the finest automobiles on the market today, then you'll want to check out all the fabulous new and pre-owned Lexus at Lexus of Atlantic City. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Driving a Lexus is like no other vehicle on the market. Test drive one for yourself at Lexus of Atlantic City. Whether it's new or pre-owned, you'll be more than satisfied. In fact, Lexus is consistently number one when it comes to customer satisfaction. Visit Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. Or you can check out their outstanding selection of new, pre-owned, and L-certified pre-owned vehicles on their website, LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. That's LexusOfAtlanticCity.com. Or, if you want more information, call 609-641-0008. Lexus of Atlantic City, now celebrating their 26th year in the area. A dealership that you'll enjoy. No pressure, no gimmicks, no hassle, no hype. Lexus of Atlantic City, 3169 Fire Road in EHT. And remember, always online at LexusOfAtlanticCity.com.
Your WPG Atlantic City Electric AccuWeather forecast for South Jersey. Very warm this afternoon with plenty of sunshine, the high up to 85. Mostly cloudy, mild tonight, low dipping to 57. Cooler tomorrow, variably cloudy with a high 66 to wrap the weekend. When you get back at it Monday, mostly cloudy and warm. A shower coming our way in spots in the afternoon Monday with a high 74. I'm AccuWeather's Ruth O'Brien on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We are back here on Talk with a Purpose. 609-407-1450 is our number here in the studio. Joe Yakovich is here. Joe is JML Financial. And his number during the week, you want to talk to Joe, you want to set up an appointment to figure out your finances, doesn't cost you anything. The initial consultation is complimentary. Joe's number, 856-751-1771. That's 856-751-1771. And his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, jmlfinancialgroup.com. Tom Gober is our guest. And Tom, I have a question, and
Sure.
it's appropriate that you're on today because I often wondered about this. Donald Trump is on trial in New York for allegedly defrauding banks and insurance companies and whatnot. And when is the line drawn where it's fraud, or you just businesses try to I'm doing this business, but I'm going to inflate it a little bit. So, what is the fine line between fraud and not fraud?
Yeah, that is a good question, and it's a tricky one because I testify as an expert all the time. And so when I speak the truth, because if I ever spoke anything else on the stand, I would be clobbered. But what I can say is that when someone starts monkeying around, what I call financial engineering, that ultimate decision is going to come down to a jury and a judge. My job is to help the jury and the judge better understand what is happening and what the impact is. And, I'm not speaking to Trump or any specific entity, but I can tell you that if there is a pattern of repeated overinflation of values, that's what the government is going to take a look at. That's what they want to see. And unfortunately, that little bit here and there that people cook a little bit, that starts piling up. and it really it means we're beginning to not be able to trust our financial institutions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, remember what we're doing, John. We want people, especially listening to you, that, what are the differences between a good company and a company that might look good from the surface. But I guess the only analogy that I'll use to complement what Tom's saying, it's like looking at an iceberg. You can see the top of it, but you don't know what's below the surface.
You don't know how far it goes.
And what Tom does is he goes and digs in and looks at the underneath of what's going on and determines, this company could be cancerous, and we want to stay away from these type of companies specifically because maybe right now it looks good, but when you're dealing with insurance companies, and we're well aware of this longevity aspect of the company. It has to hold up long term, not short term. So that's one of the things that Tom specializes in.
Joe, I'm serious. That is a great example, and I hope I can use that going forward.
We're all thieves, Tom. You know that. We're all thieves.
He's not going to charge you, Tom.
No, but your point on, Tom. I mean, you know what you do, and I know what you do. But the average person out there do not even think about the questions that we're talking about today. So our job is to really clear the air and say it's as simple as asking a question or two of your advisor.
What you just said is exactly the issue with the offshore reinsurance.
Correct.
Because what you got is the insurance company. Now, remember, your client has a policy, and at the top of that policy is the name of the insurance company.
Right.
That is the only entity that has an obligation to the policyholder. So if the holding company, some big private equity group or some big bank or whoever owns that insurance company, you can't count on anyone but that company. And so I look at that company. That's what matters. And because of all of the high levels of offshore reinsurance, the life insurer's balance sheet is that little tip that's floating above the water, and all that reinsurance is what's below, and we can't see it. And that's just a problem. And let me say one more thing. Look, there are lots of folks that monkey around, and frankly, if a tire manufacturer cooks the books, that's not my concern. But a life insurance company, people timely pay their premiums their entire life. And all they get for that is a promise, a very long-term promise. That's why it matters. That's why we have to know if there's a bunch of stuff down under the water that we can't see. And what's painful for me is I can see it. It jumps out at me because this is all I've done for 37 years, and it's just hard to reach enough people to warn them. So, yeah, the perfect question is, do y'all use a bunch of offshore reinsurance? And if they say, I don't know, you say, find out. And don't say you'll buy their product until they confirm for you, right?
Yes.
Well, Tom, thank you very much for enlightening us with that. I do appreciate that. And I know I woke you up because you're usually snoring at this hour. But thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. 609-407-1450 if you have a question for Joe Yakovich, whether it's about debt-free for life or insurance or whatever it is. 609-407-1450. The biggest concern for people entering retirement, running out of money?
Yeah, I would think that's the number one concern. And sometimes, you can see what Tom has, talked about is making sure you have good, solid insurance companies. If you're using, insurance product in part of your overall plan, you're seeing that happen now with 401ks and IRAs. You're seeing companies start to implement guaranteed type of vehicles inside a 401k or an IRA, like an annuity where you cannot lose money and you're only using it for the purpose of income planning, not running out of money, and also, more importantly, to make sure that the company that you're using, whatever that may be, what Tom talked a little bit ago in reference to, is it solid? Is it solvent? Is it going to be around for a long time? Does it have offshore investments that we're not familiar with? And it's really sad because he's right. That never happened before. That's bizarre when you hear insurance companies taking on more risk. And the reason why this took place, John, is because remember for the last, 12 to 15 years, we have suppressed interest rates, and insurance companies are very aware of that because they are using very safe investments. When you have these investments at 2%, you can't run a business at that, that level. So they go offshore to try to get a better yield, but you don't know where they're investing the money in. So that becomes an issue. And that's why, I had Tom on to let them know, our listening audience, that when we look at companies, we're really serious about the type of companies we're looking at for them because, it might look good in the first couple of years, but what happens because you're using this purposely for that strategy that we present.
Is it because, and you've been talking about this.
Correct.
Is it because maybe you don't protect your money properly or what?
Well, it's not only a lot of people do not, John. We talked about it in our first opening dialogue.
Yeah.
They go, we have a security. What is it? They think it's a stock security. No, that's not secure because you don't know what you're going to get, high or low, on that distribution. Remember, we're not talking about accumulation planning. Now we're talking about distribution planning, which is a whole different conversation. You're coming out of the market. That's why people need to understand it. You're coming out of the market and you're not putting any more money, I'm using this for an example, for Social Security, because now you have been paying into Social Security after tax and you expect to get that money out. But don't forget, you're not putting any more money into these programs. So that's why you're having some issues even with Social Security trust funds in our country. But there's a lot of different things you need to be aware of, especially if you invest with insurance companies. I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm talking about the insurance companies. You need to have a good, solid company that will give you the promise, because you're dealing with a promise here, that they're going to be around for a long time, give you a decent rate for a long time, and give you guarantees for a long time. That's the premise behind that.
Okay, John in Ocean City wants to talk to you, Joe.
Hey,
John, you're on with Joe Yakovich.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. Yes, I was just visiting my mansion over on 25th and the beach the other day. It's still there. Oh, my gosh, man, it's a beauty. It reaches from the dunes to Central Avenue. It's about half a block. And, I was on a sun deck there that leads out. If you step off, you walk into a path that leads you to the beach. Anyway, the gal's coming up from the beach, and she's walking over to the house. And I said, you own that, don't you? She says, I only own half. But I said, that's a drag. And she said, yeah, it is a drag. But she was regular people. I like that. Now, you're a football player. You look at the world as a football game to win, not to lose. Now, regarding regular people, they had $100,000 in the bank. It will be covered by the bank. Now, LifeLock promises to protect $1 million from cyber attacks, identity theft, and that. What would you do? I mean, what does a person do besides become paranoid over their money? Because I know I would be. That would be my main. Go ahead,
John. I'm going to tell you right off the bat because it's just rolled out just a day ago. There are right now, John, you can go and 3 year, because I've done the due diligence because people always ask me somewhat similar questions that you're asking. And by the way, John, the numbers now, they moved it up to 500,000, but that's irrelevant. You now can get 5.9%, John, for 3 year fixed rate deferred with an insurance company right now as we speak. After 3 years, there's no surrender charge. There's nothing like that. It's 3 years. You get it back. You got to pay the tax then because it's deferred. If you have it in an IRA or Roth, you pay no tax. But 5.9%, that's what and we look and we surfaced all the companies, Don, and the better ones, the better quality companies we present. Yeah, you can get 6.0, but the guy, you don't know where that money is being held. We have 5.9s right now in force versus the banks that are about, I don't know, maybe a half a point or more lower. Again, paying tax to tax. But for 3 years, John, the reason I'm mentioning 3 years, because we still and you know as well as I do, it's going to be a wrestling match over the next year or two. Who's in office, Republican or Democrat? We talked about it earlier with the Congress, how much people do truly trust in our Congress situation with this new guy on board. But yes, the 3-year rate right now, John, because of the market uncertainty, is a good buy to put some of your money.
Far out. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, John, thanks for the call. It is Talk with a Purpose every Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi. Still have some time to call in if you want to ask Joe a question or you want to talk about debt-free for life. 609-407-1450 is the number. We have some final thoughts with Joe Yakovich after these words.
Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift are bipartisan legislators working to improve Atlantic County, and they're succeeding. Millions to improve our hospitals and for maternal and infant health care. A tough-on-crime county prosecutor who leads the state in detaining serious criminals. Support for our police to keep us safe. 7 new judges to help enforce law and order in Atlantic County. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift secured hundreds of millions in funding for our boardwalks, roads, bridges, and traffic improvements, and even restored full service to the Cardiff Motor Vehicle Center office. It doesn't stop there. Palestina, Guardian, and Swift worked across the aisle to secure a national aviation research and technology park right here in Atlantic County. Vince Palestina for Senate, Don Guardian, and Claire Swift for Assembly. Bipartisan legislators delivering for Atlantic County.
This is Vince Palestina. This ad was paid for by Palestina, Guardian, and Swift, P.O. Box 629, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225.
Debt. If you hate debt as much as we do, listen. Debt. It's one of the biggest problems faced by 77% of Americans. A system called Debt Free for Life is a smart, financially unique solution. Not only does Debt Free for Life, a proprietary system that you can access absolutely free, help our clients pay off their debts years, sometimes decades earlier, it can also save them tens of thousands of dollars in interest, build their wealth at the same time, and it does it all tax-free. Find out more now. Go to jmlfinancialgroup.com to get your free report on Debt Free for Life, or call Joe Yakovich at JML Financial Group at 856-751-1771. Remember, access to Debt Free for Life is absolutely free. Check it out now at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
If you want to contact Joe Yakovich about Debt Free for Life or about anything financial, whether it be about investments or strategies or whatever, 856-751-1771 is his number, 856-751-1771, and the website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. jmlfinancialgroup.com is the website. Couple of minutes left to Talk with a Purpose here with Joe Yakovich. 609-407-1450 is our number here. And I know this is a pet peeve of yours.
Yeah.
With regards to a strategy, you offer your clients a yearly strategy session.
Correct.
That is not a yearly review, and talk about the difference.
Well, I believe most of my clients, after speaking with me and me having that conversation with you, are pretty smart people. What we try to do is offer them a way to speak with us, not just looking at the numbers. We want to have a real strategic meeting together so we know what's going to happen in the future. We're looking in the in the future, not in the rear view mirror. And what happens is just the people that come in and ask us about numbers, I'd just rather do it over the phone and say, listen, now we can use Zoom, obviously. So we want to be able to determine if there's any changes taking place, if they're retiring, if any of their children are being married or somebody passed. Those type of things that are important to us, versus just coming in just to see me and say, okay, we're going to move money around. That's not the point here. My clients are pretty smart when they leave me purposely, and I want them not to ignore things like inflation and healthcare. And healthcare, I hear it all the time, John. So what we want to do is put strategies. When we do meet with those people, it's a strategic meeting, not just a pushing of numbers around. There's the difference between what I do with my clients.
So it is strategy.
Correct.
As opposed to another advisor might say, well, here's what happened here.
Right.
And you already know what happened.
Right. I know exactly. So that doesn't, why waste the person's time? Why, and the people that we deal with, it's not a surprise. They've gotten much more intuitive of what's happening, and we try to force that, moving forward when we're talking about look at the future. Don't look at what just happened last year or last week, because it's going to change on us. So.
All right. You got about 5 minutes. What do you want to?
I'll tell you one thing, John. I want to start something. I think I talked about it with you. I want to see if we both can talk about this with business owners. I want to have a little segment of when we do meet together on the clock with Joe Yock. I want to have a business owner or so that will have them call in, talk about their regional business, just like what Tom did. But we don't need a half an hour. It's a 10-minute little conversation on what's happening with inflation, with the COVID situation. They give us a real handle, a true handle on what's happening in our region of the country. Now, we're in a very, semi-popular area, semi-wealthy area. We have, I've heard you speak with people about the Atlantic City issue with the marijuana situation, and you get different feedback from different people. But more importantly, when we're dealing with our clients, John, because it's such a stressful situation, especially what you said earlier, people don't know. And we try to put them on a really good position to be in to move forward down the road. Anytime they can ask us questions, for instance, our website, JML Financial Group, if you go in there, John, and pop around, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And one of the things we added on to that was the debt free for life. So actually have an example of what one would look like. And it's amazing because we're using real numbers. We're not using fictitious numbers. And we get people to understand the new word for everybody to learn. Efficient interest cost. We found out that what the banks are making and the lending institutions are making, and you saw it in the double digits.
Yes.
So if I can move that in your balance sheet, your side, everything changes. The whole game changes.
You did mine. Your son did mine.
Right.
And it was 77%.
Okay.
Of effective cost.
And so I said,
what?
I said, are you making that in your account? No, I'm not. And on average, John, it's over 30%.
Yeah.
So when you show people and you share with people what they don't know, it's surprising. They look at you and they go, this is exactly what they say to me. Nobody's ever done that for us. And how did you do that? And then we show them how we do it. And they go, and this is as simple as that. Why would they not want to do something or improve and get rid of that debt as fast as possible? Besides all the other things, because it's going to happen. If I get you out of debt, that means your health care, you won't be stretched out with health care, or inflation, you won't be stressed out. In taxes, you won't be stressed out. By eliminating that piece of the puzzle, and it's really like a cancerous piece of the puzzle, because people want to have this magnificent lifestyle, but they go in more in debt because of having that lifestyle, if you think about it. So for us, our concerns are getting out of debt as fast as possible, save as much as money, and giving you guarantees. And that's kind of what our ideas are focused in on.
And I know you had a whole bunch of don'ts.
Yes.
Next time you come on, you'll
finish the don'ts.
You'll finish the don'ts. But in general, how could you leave us with what words of wisdom today?
Words of wisdom.
And you got a minute.
I'd like to have that. Chris will give me anyway. What we do, John, when we sit down with every person, and like in our calls today, we have an open architect. You come in, you ask a few questions of me, I ask a few questions of you. I've been doing this for, I hate to say it, close to 40 years. I have my family working with me. My son becomes a really interesting part of this whole piece of the puzzle when it comes to the digitally part and all the technology portions of it. But, when you're able to share with clients and really help them, and forget about the selling part of it, you really help people, and it's almost like you got the rock off their shoulders. You could just see and feel in the room like, wow, no one's ever showed us this. So Our focus is being able to help people, as many we can. There's not enough of me in the world to be able to help everyone, but we do try to help people, and we ask the right questions. They ask us good questions, and then we move forward. And it's really an easy for us way to do business with people.
And that is going to put the wraps on another edition of Talk with a Purpose. Again, Joe Yakovich, 856-751-1771. I'm John DeMasi. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Chris Coleman, our program director and producer. Thanks to Joe Yakovich. And thanks to you, because without you, as I said, we don't have a show. You have yourself a great week. We'll talk to you next Saturday, 9 till noon, WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. You take care.
The preceding program was paid for and presented by John DeMasi.